Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom.
Boom. Welcome to the 197th episode.
Hey, it's hard to keep track. We've had a lot in the last week, haven't we?
Yeah. I am the original Travis now.
I am the Bon Voyage, Dylan Moss.
Oh, very nice. Nice shout out. If you heard that crack, I was talking to Dylan before. I'm trying this drink, Laminaire. It's called Bubbly.
Bubbly.
Lime Bubbly, sparkling water, which I'm actually, now I didn't know was sparkling water, and now I'm actually pretty bummed. I'm not a big sparkling water fan.
Really? Because I said that like 5 minutes ago. I read it and I said specifically sparkling water. So
it's lime, though. Let me get the first taste before we get...
Good taste. It's got a nice smiley face on it, as I said.
It's not bad. It just kind of tastes like ginger ale, which is alright.
But like a discount ginger ale?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm not actually going to drink any of that.
You're not going to have any more? Wow.
Yeah, no, because I don't need the calories. That's why.
Uh-huh.
We're
not sponsored by this, so you can shit on it all you want.
Bubbly, I will love your water if you sponsor us in the near future.
We are easy sellouts.
Well, you know what we maybe loved or maybe didn't. Who knows? You have to listen to this podcast, but it's Incredibles. We're here to review it. What was I going to say? As far as plugs, just go check out all our E3 content. Mm-hmm. We got a lot of that reviewed every conference except for Devolvers and PCs, but we did big breakdowns. Thank you to everyone who listened. We had a good week. Numbers are still doing really good, but thank you for the people that listened to it, especially on Sunday for Xbox and Bethesda. That was our biggest day of E3. So lots of fun, lots of games to talk about. So we're back in the saddle. I think
back in the saddle.
I don't know for sure. I got to talk to my lawyers. I think either this weekend or next weekend a GeekVerse Gauntlet will be dropping. So check out that. It's myself and my mystery partner versus Jessica and Kirkland in the semifinals of the team tournament. So that's dropping soon.
TV match.
Go to our Facebook or YouTube. You can watch our first vlogs from E3 weekend. We got some shenanigans on the road.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a fun one. Lots of good feedback on that, and lots of people have been tuning in that, so thank you for that. I don't think
including my mom. So.
Yeah, my dad. It's kind of embarrassing when parents watch this type of stuff, you know? And I guess the other thing I can plug, I guess two things I can plug for Taylor Field is, one, he dropped a Jurassic World...
Evolution,
that's what it's called. Video game review, so check that out if you're a fan of dinosaurs, if you're a fan of Taylor, if you're a fan of Tycoon, whatever that game is.
There's always, I guarantee anytime, I haven't listened to his review yet, but every time Taylor does a solo review, there's always some really money quotes in there. He says some crazy stuff when no one's, keeping him in check. So
he was muted. It came up on an autoplay, listen to this next or something like that. Or I was doing some work, and just the way he was looking at the camera and he had a hand motion, he gets into it, man.
Yeah.
So, but the other thing I can plug for Taylor Field is he'll be back next week and a few others, I'm sure. It's a duo cast this time, but next week will be a Jurassic World review and.
Right, that is next week.
How do you think that's gonna go? Just quickly, how do you think that's gonna be? I just want better than Rampage.
I feel like I've been disappointed a lot lately with movies. Not a great year, but there is some good movies in there.
Well, was Incredible one of those movies? That's what we're going to talk about right now. If you haven't...
Incredibles 2. Yeah,
Incredibles 2, 14 years later. If you've not joined us for a review before, we start with non-spoilers, so we just give our overall thoughts, what we liked and disliked of the film, and then we'll give you a spoiler warning, and then we'll do a deep dive into those pros and cons. So, Dylan Muss, let's start with you, because you're the only one here. I'm going to be rude
I'm the only one you can throw to.
Yeah, it'd be rude to throw to myself. So, obviously, this is something we've talked about on the cast multiple times. We have a shirt called The Originals. Go back. Maybe I'll post the link in the below episode. But it's an early one. It was probably our very first inside joke. You can go to Public, get the t-shirt. That's an OG fan. So this has been... We've talked about The Incredibles quite a bit in multiple mediums. The old game, the movie, when the sequels announced, the trailers. Obviously, like I said, 14 years, lots of build-up, lots of hype. Where is this sitting with you so far? We just fresh out of the theater.
Yeah, my initial emotion is I feel a little bit deflated, and reason being, I still have a vivid memory of going to see this movie in theaters as a kid when it first came out. I think I probably saw it 3 or 4 times. I loved all the characters, obviously everything in it, the animation and the music, all of it was brought together. It was such a fantastic movie. Obviously, it was a different time for comic book movies. And that one, it was just a really fun adventure. And it was an origin story, but it also wasn't for some characters. It was a great time, and I've rewatched the movie a ton of times over the course of my life, a couple times, in the last year, and it still holds up, and I still love that movie. It has a special place in my heart. So this one obviously had some pretty big expectations after 14 years. I have to say, you know, talking with you and watching these trailers had me a bit worried.
I always say Finding Dory as well. That was the first time when I saw it. I'm like, oh, they just made Finding Nemo again. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then that's when these trailers kicked in. Hashtag Trash told you at the beginning. I'm like, this is smelling a little fishy right now, you know?
A little too fishy. And that's like Finding Dory. I didn't even finish it. I was just watching it on Netflix or something, and I just didn't really see the point of finishing the movie, even though I loved the first one. So, yeah, this movie definitely has a lot of really good moments, but
not a bad movie.
It's not a bad movie by any means. I think it just really doesn't come together to make like one great movie.
Yeah.
I think one thing to mention is there's like they play a little short movie before the movie starts, just like a little animation. And honestly, weird. That had more emotional impact on me than like this whole movie did. And that's really sad because I love these characters so much. I think, you know, it was a lot of this movie was just shoving it down your throat, reminding you how much you love the first one. A lot of beat for beat moments I'll talk about in the spoiler section where it's like quite literally the exact same scene or even like the same things of dialogue. And then there's a lot of I think like that is this movie's strength, is that it's tying back to a movie that is amazing and has really good characters, and then it also has a lot of Jack in it, and every Jack scene is awesome. He's funny, he's hilarious. The interactions, I don't know, it's surprising, it's cool, and there's a lot of it in this movie. But the problem is none of that stuff really progresses the story. So it's fun moments and scenes, and they're memorable, but it doesn't cultivate the rest of the movie. It's just its own thing, and that's kind of what happens as well. Like you kind of split up the characters a bit in this movie, and Elastigirl kind of has her story, and then you know, Mr. Incredible's back at home watching the kids, and they do feel very disconnected, these two stories. Yeah. And one of them is quite poorly done in terms of, for me, like the writing and the other characters, and that's Elastigirl's story. I didn't really like that at all. Most of those scenes were quite boring, other than the first couple. And then I like the stuff with Mr. Incredible back home, you know, watching the kids, and it's fun, but I don't know, there's not really a whole lot of depth to it, right? Like it's pretty basic stuff, and it goes on until like pretty much the climax of the movie. And I mean, I guess there's a villain in this movie, but nothing like the villain in the first movie. It was a lot more fun, and feel like I don't know, this villain is developed and it has like the proper backstory, but it just feels like it's check boxes instead of trying to be creative or...
Yeah, it's developed. I just think it's... And I can't even say it's not well developed. It's just kind of, for me, it was boring because the second...
It's also a lot more predictable. I mean, it's hard to compare. The first movie, obviously I was a young kid, so I wasn't... I don't know. I wasn't really up on, you know, surprises. I wasn't thinking about these things I was watching. I was just sitting back and relaxing. But so it's hard for me to remember if really like the kind of twist or like who the villain in that movie was surprising. I'm sure. I mean, it was as a kid.
But I feel like they almost don't make Syndrome with twists because you see him as a kid and then he just appears, right? Where I'm not trying to get because this movie, they do try to make it feel more like a gotcha sort of moment, and I feel like it's not. I don't. I'd love to talk to a kid that sees this, and I'm not saying they would be like, oh yeah, I knew something, but I would just honestly like to see like, how did you feel about that villain or that reveal and stuff like that. You know, where as an adult, and obviously is what we do when we watch movies, we critique them. Now with the podcast, we pick them apart sometimes. The second the villain's introduced, you know where it's going, and then when it does happen, for me, it is well developed, but like you said, it's kind of like check boxes where it's okay, we did that, and the villain's story in a non-spoiler way, it's very cookie cutter. It's like the Syndrome thing was so good of like, oh, this fanboy. It's pretty much just nowadays, like if you watch Honest Trailers, they did a good thing of like, he's just like fans nowadays that grew up and just end up hating something he loves and wants to destroy it. Like, this villain's just this is just like...
Well, I think the thing with Syndrome is there's actually an adventure tied with like his, you know, arc as a villain. Yeah. Whereas this movie just feels quite stagnant. Like, it doesn't really feel like much happens in this movie. No. But in other ways, there's a couple things that progress way too quickly that could be realistic. So your overall thoughts are pretty similar to mine.
Well, yeah, and this isn't even a spoiler. It's just like, I guess it's a minor spoiler, but if you really thought this, come on. We pretty much end the same, like, this movie ends the same way that the first one did. Not in the sense of, like, the same situation, just, like, I feel like nothing's changed.
No, it's almost the exact same.
Yeah, and that's where for me, like the two comparisons I'd see to this is, I know a lot of people might throw like that didn't love was Guardians 2, which I could go, yeah, they end in a similar way, but there's so much that changed. And then another one for me is like Force Awakens, of a movie that's like kind of, some people say is a retread, but when I sit down and I say, hey, this character's motivations is different, this character's different, this villain's different, yada yada yada. So other than the villain in this movie, it's the same characters. Mm-hmm. So it's like a retread, but then there's nothing new because these characters are the exact same people. And yeah, I was kind of prepared. I just thought, the second I saw the first trailer, I was just worried. Actually, it was all the way back when they announced this. I still think, I'm a broken record, I still think not doing a time jump really hurt it, because we hit the similar beats of, we literally just, in this movie, in non-specifics, you see this from the trailers, they just swap of like, okay, Mr.Incredible, he's the one at home, Miss Elastigirl, she's the one on the adventure. Mm-hmm. And the adventure and the at-home stuff's pretty similar, other than, okay, I don't know, Bob isn't the greatest dad as far as doing stuff with the kids, right? And Elastigirl was better at home. So that's the only kind of twist, but most of the stuff is very similar. It follows very similar beats for the most part. I'd say, I don't know, 65% of this movie is very similar. Like, there's variations, of course, but it's just, there's one moment which will bring the spoilers, which is just very much, that's when it turned for me, like, oh, we're doing this. Yeah, villain was nothing special, very predictable. There, like Dylan said, there's some good moments, there's some really cool stuff they did. Jack, I really liked, but I felt like they relied on him too much sometimes, just to, I don't think just to get a laugh, but just to, I don't know, just, it was a good crutch to fall back on. We don't know what's going on at home. Oh, we'll do something fun with Jack. Yeah, and like for me, I said down in the car, I felt like we could have just got short films of this before other Pixar movies, you know, like Adventures of Bob, like easy.
Well, I believe there even was, like on the DVD.
Jack Attack. Yeah,
exactly.
They did that. Yeah, so for me, they could have just kept doing those. Like that's what they felt so out of sync, where even in the first movie, okay, Elastigirl's at home, but she's worried, like, why is Bob sneaking around? It's not like there's little ties to it and eventually comes together, where this movie, it's like, it's completely separate, and then a snap of the finger, it's like, oh, they're conjoined, but it's like, oh, like, it just happens in, like, such a kind of a lazy way. Yeah, the score is good, but it's very much this first one, so that's just a great score, nonetheless. Maybe there's some new stuff I have to watch again, but
it's really well, like, timed with the action, particularly in, I guess, I don't want to get into spoiler territory.
In the ending battle? Yeah, in the ending battle, yeah. There's a battle at the end. That's all we can say, you know.
What? In a superhero movie?
Yeah, I guess like a non-spoiler as well, we get more Frozone in this movie, and I like that because I love Frozone, and he's used well. But yeah, it suffers from that sequelitis that comedy sequels really fall for, and that's why for me I'm such a Deadpool 2 fan, is because there's stuff from the original one, but then because of the fourth wall, they'll like turn it on its side and be like, oh, you were expecting us to do that again, but we didn't. Where this is very much like nowhere near as bad as like Anchorman or Zoolander 2 or anything like that. But it reminds me of a better version of those movies where it's like, oh, you remember that joke? We're going to do that joke again. And I hate comedies that do that. Like, you can make little hints and nods to the original, but this relied so much on it. I think it's just very well made. There's some really good scenes, which I can't say because they're spoilerish. And as far as the kids, they're good, but nothing's really progresses. It feels like we're in the same spot we were before, and that's why when we left, I said I'd still want Incredibles 3, but I still want that time jump. I still think there's something I want to see. Okay, what happens when Violet and Dash are adults, you know? And I've always wanted, I don't know if it could happen, I always wanted Jack to be the villain with all his powers, you know? Like, just do something, and that's where, to me, the first Incredibles, and I know other people are going to throw this out too before we get into spoilers, it's like, oh, well, you love Incredibles because you're a kid and you saw you have all these memories. That's true to an extent, but at the same point, eventually you watch this movie as an adult, and you can pick up on the flaws. And the biggest thing, and many people can stand by this, is the prequels. And Dylan can attest to it. He had not seen the prequels for a long time. When we started this podcast, we made him rewatch these prequels, the Star Wars ones. I don't like those movies anymore. And that's where, to me, it's like, yeah, of course you're always going to have nostalgia. Even the prequels, there's times where I think back as a kid, like, oh, I love certain stuff, and I'll go watch a scene because I was a kid. Yeah, exactly. Darth Maul, like all this stuff. But eventually, once you watch it at this stage, you're like, it doesn't really sit together. Or Incredibles, Dylan, you watched it not too recently. I watched it last night in preparation. And it's such a great movie with pacing and story. And it just feels so unique. And especially, it's very much like Watchmen. So unfortunately, this came out before Watchmen. But for a movie to comment the way it does in the superhero genre felt great. they have little comments about the superhero genre in this one, but they feel really forced or not as funny. And that was the other thing too. For me, it's nowhere near as funny as the first one. Like just even little characters like Dash's teacher just felt just really weird but quirky at the same time. Where it's not a big spoiler, but we meet other superheroes in these movies, and some of them are just annoying and like they're trying to be really funny. But that's what sometimes it feels like, we're trying to be really funny. It just maybe it was hidden, but in our theater it didn't, like it wasn't. It's not one of those times where I'm sitting there, everyone else is laughing, like, oh, I guess I just don't get it. Other than the kids laughing, our theater was not like dead quiet, but it wasn't like, oh, everyone was having a hysterical time. Like
other than Jack's.
Yeah, Jack's bulletproof, but it's like because it's a cute baby, right? So it's like,
and he's actually bulletproof.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So I'm disappointed, but I have my expectations leveled, so I'm not that disappointed. I kind of par for the course, and I'm a big horror for it, but Toy Story 4 is coming around the corner, and it's going to save us all, because Toy Story is the only one that produces great sequels, and that's why you look at Toy Story. That's where it's something different, where first movie is about this jealousy that he has with Buzz, and the second movie is about him worrying about, like, commenting on age, like getting old and being used up, and then the third one is, like, seeing Annie grow up and move on. Like, these sequels all feel, whatever one you like the most, they all feel like something's different. Even Monsters University, for me, that's what I like, because, like, okay, it is a prequel, but it's about them joining friends. I don't know what the point is. And there's some weird stuff that happens with Bob that I don't like in this movie, where he's very unsupportive of Elastigirl, and it feels very out of place, especially from the first movie, where I felt like all these bridges we cross them, but it's just like, no, we go back to cross them again, and I don't know.
Let's hop into spoilers on them.
Yeah, so 3, 2, 1, if you've not seen this movie, please come back when you've watched it, and we will spoil the hell out of it for you. If you're not planning to watch this, you like spoilers, and you're in for the ride in the Incredible
You're in for the ride.
Is it it's Incredible? I always thought it was the Incredible.
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like they would keep it consistent, so it's got to be the Incredible.
But we're in spoilers now, so if you hear anything, you haven't seen the movie, and you want to, that is all on you now. So where do you want to start with spoilers?
Well, I just wanted to pick up right on that last thought you left there with Mr. Incredible, and to me, it didn't really feel like they were going back. He just felt like a different character. Like, he was much more aggressive, and I don't know, he had...
aloof, kind of, I felt. Like, the times when he was talking to... what's Bob Odenkirk's character? The guy's like, superheroes or whatever.
Winston,
like, when he felt like really cheesy in those moments, and then I hated the stuff that he was with Elastigirl. Like, he felt like this, like, I don't know, like, every time she was doing...
he was just super jealous of
her,
very unsupportive, like you said. He just felt like a what's the word I'm looking for? He felt kind of, help me out here.
Help me out here, big guy. A shell of his former self, a ghost, an echo, an echo fighter.
There's the word that's just like...
Do you want me to talk while you think of the word?
Yeah, let's just move on.
But yeah, it caught me off guard, and then they bring up this jealousy thing, and nothing really comes of it. He just kind of decides, I'm going to be a better dad, because she says some comment like, I'll come home, but like, I didn't feel like that was needed. They kind of made the joke work in the end, but also like the Tony stuff I didn't feel was needed. I thought there could have been some other stuff that they could have done as like, okay, guys, mind wiped, okay. But there's a few things like this movie where like, I don't know, I'm not, and maybe it's not that it's not needed, I'm just not a fan of the storyline, but the Bob stuff in particular at the beginning of the movie, I didn't like how he's like flipping through the channels and he's like mad seeing all this news. Like, that's just not the Mr. Incredible that I had after the first one.
It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because this movie picks up from the exact moment that the other movie ended.
Exactly.
So there's been no progression or change. And then even, like, it's just an instant reaction from him too, right? Yeah. So it's not like there was any development there. He just, like, was turned into a really bitter... That's the word I was looking for earlier.
Boom.
Bitter. I don't know why I couldn't find it. But, he just turns into this really bitter and kind of scary guy. Like, he doesn't feel like this guy who's been around my whole life, and just he's Mr. Incredible.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel like that so much anymore.
Well, and how I liked it at first when they seem like, okay, so she gets a job offer and then they're in the bed and you can tell he's a little jealous. And then I felt like they had the conversation and then he's just like, you do good so I can do good. Like he kind of made... to me, it felt like in that moment he kind of accepted of like, okay, yeah, I'm a little jealous of this because they're picking her, but at the end of the day, if she does well, I can come back, the kids can be supers, all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I can deal with him being jealous for like a little bit, and then they put the kibosh on it. But then, 5 minutes later or 10 minutes, whenever she starts to do good, it's just, and he's so overly like mad about it. That was the time where they're going for humor, where he's like slamming his head on the counter. Mm-hmm. There's a few laughs in the theater, but for me, I was just more perplexed of what is happening with Mr. Incredible right now. You know,
it's just, he doesn't. One thing that the first movie does so well is it really establishes them all as like a really tight family, really close. They all love each other a lot, obviously. But it's nice that you actually get to see that, and you see that kind of develop, and they, I don't know, form a special bond. And he just seems to like really resent his children almost.
Oh yeah.
Like he's just super excited when they go off to school, and he just pawns off Jack to Edna. I understand it's not easy, but. Yeah, he just doesn't feel like the same guy. It's really disappointing.
Yeah, it's weird, and if you had a time jump, you could kind of maybe play that up a bit, right? And be like, okay, he's acting like this, even if it's a few years, but it is just picked up right away. So for me, it's just like that adventure that we just had with Syndrome and everything doesn't match up with this. And
then I guess they do kind of tackle, so it's weird, they put him back to... I mean, he wasn't really like this like at the start of the first movie, but they just kind of put him in this weird spot where he's super jealous. And then they do address it, he learns the new way of math and teaches that to Dash, and he helps Violet get the guy back and figures out what to do with Jack. So he goes through all that, but it I don't know, it didn't really feel like a story that needed to be told really in the first place. And then also, did it really need to take place over the entirety of the movie, or could it just been tackled in 30 minutes and then move on to something more exciting for him?
And that's the other thing with Incredibles, when I look at them, like, that's such a unique, original film. To me, and I'm not saying this because, like, I'm a dad and I have a kid and, like, I'm offended by the jokes. It's just, like, to me, the jokes of, the dad that can't take care of the kid, we've just seen it so much in movies and TV, and you can do that, but for me, it was just that, and the kicker is, they rely on because this kid's a superpower, so that's why they do that. So I get it. It's an easy thing that they want to do, but for me, it's just, there was no consequences to that. They tried to, and that's why I almost think they made him jealous, because they thought, how else can we make this home stuff interesting? He'll have this internal struggle, where it's like, okay, like, I don't know, they could have still, even though I'm not a big fan of doing the whole, like, idiotic dad joke thing over and over, but it's like, okay, let's just do that then for a bit, like, to pick one or the other. But I feel like we've seen this before in many other movies, and this was sure done well at times, but other times it wasn't. It just, again, it's a little disappointing when Incredibles is so unique. It's like, this isn't really that unique, and the Elastigirl stuff isn't unique because that's just the first movie. Rich tycoon comes in, hey, you're gonna be a superhero, you're gonna, provide for your family, and we're gonna, the only difference is, okay, we might make superheroes legal now, but it's the same thing. The villain, now we're in spoilers, the villain happens to be a part of this organization. They really just switch up, like, Syndrome and the girl villain, but they, on their dime of, like, I can't remember who her name is in Incredibles, but the assistant, and that's what Winston is in this to Elastigirl. It's just like the same thing. So the second I saw a sister,
just gender swap it.
Yeah, the second I saw the sister, like the second she comes with the papers, I'm like, that's gonna be her, and especially just because I'd seen the body size of Screensaver, so it's like a lanky, skinny person, So like, right, I'm like, it's gonna be her, and just she was so off.
It's a good, obviously it's good to spread the wealth, have like strong female characters, but the first movie did that 14 years ago between Violet, Elastigirl, and then even Mirage comes to save the day in the first movie. She comes to help them. So I don't know, it didn't really.
And I don't even think for me it was like, they need to make this villain a female. I think they just didn't pull it off, because the second she's introduced, for me and I think for you and other people, okay, she's the villain, but either way of the whole movie, it's like, okay, the idea is she walks in, us as the viewers, maybe educated moviegoers go, that should be the villain. The rest of the movie should be trying to trick us. The rest of the movie is just laying it on thicker and thicker and thicker that she's the villain, her and Elastigirl becoming best friends, and they're talking.
Yeah, those scenes really bothered me.
They have that first scene all talking about business versus selling, and it's it was so on the nose.
The timing and it was a weird
the
sequence of dialogue. It didn't actually feel like the two actors were in the booth saying the lines back and forth. It felt like they just went and recorded them separate and they spliced them together and tried to make it work as best they could, and it didn't really didn't function.
And what I was going through my head during that scene, it's a famous quote Harrison Ford said to George Lucas when he saw some early scripts of Star Wars and he saw the dialogue. He's like, "You don't expect people to say this, do you?" And that's what I felt in this scene. Of like, it didn't feel like real people talking, and that's weird to me because Incredibles, that thing is this animated, high octane, like whimsical world, but the first movie feels like real. Like it feels like they do their best to make it's an animated superhero movie that takes place in the real world, where that felt so out of place. And that's where like this feels like a movie, and this whole like, because to me it was just like, oh, they're trying to lay her motivations to be a villain, right? Which don't really come into it later. Like this whole like one is like she's monologuing in that moment like Screenslaver is, that's her name now, Screenslaver. So she's monologuing just like people don't understand, they just sell. So it's like already it's like, okay, so she's saying stuff that's already similar to him, and then two, that's not even her end motivations. Her end motivations because her dad called a fucking superhero, and I mean that's super lame because it's like, that doesn't mean superheroes shouldn't be around. That just means your dad was a fucking idiot. Like, that shit, like, where Syndrome to me was like, okay, he's this messed up little kid, but it made sense. Where this was just, I feel like she was a smart enough person to go, okay, like, maybe I'm not for superheroes, but the fact that, you know, your dad chose not to go in the safe room. They didn't say, go, like, we'll be, it would have been different if they picked up the phone, called Gazerbeam, and he said, we'll be right there, and he didn't make it in time. But instead of the dad be like, no, we're not going to go in the safe room, it's like, yeah, your dad's just a fucking idiot. Why wouldn't he go in the safe room? Even if superheroes were coming, because they're right behind him when he's making the call. They still would have shot him if Gazerbeam got there like 5 minutes. Like, the whole motivations, her whole scenes, everything, for me, really brought down. Maybe because it was predictable, too, didn't help, but like, those scenes, I even leaned over and like, what is a scene? It was going on. It was only like a minute, but it felt like 5 minutes. The specific one was the first one they're talking about, like, selling, like, my brother does the selling and I do the and I do the tech and everything, and it felt really out of place, especially for like a, I guess I know I don't want to say it's a kids movie because they're not, but at the end they still are. It's the same way George Lucas said, like, hey, these movies are made for kids. This scene of dialogue to me felt like there's stuff where you can't understand as a kid, and then when you get older, you go, oh, I understand this. This just felt very shoehorned in. Like, I don't know what the point of that scene was. It was very odd. And then they have another scene later that's very similar, and they're just trying to make them friends, I guess. But I guess because I thought...
Well, yeah, that's what they're trying to establish, that connection, so that it makes sense that she would fall for her trap later on. But really, she could have done that at any point. Like, it didn't really need to happen.
No.
And it's not like they really were friends and that there was, like, tension. Like, they had, like, some tense scene when she actually did find out who she was, and she has the goggles off so she can talk to her again. Like, that scene in the airplane, like, you don't really... It's like the ending scene, you know? You don't really have a conversation because Elastigirl, like, can't breathe and she's not herself.
I hated that scene, too, because I feel like Elastigirl...
Her outfit looked cool, the villain.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's
like, which one? Like, in the plane or as
like that final scene with the black and white lines and stuff.
And I like Screenslaver, too, and I think one of my favorite moments of this movie is when Elastigirl goes to Hideout, and she gets in that room, and, like, she's trying to hypnotize her with all this, like, in the room, and all the walls and the roof are all trying... That was great.
No, yeah, that whole scene is a lot of fun, though. She's going through the room, and there's, like, all the gadgets, and she's, I don't know, in the lair, you know, trying to figure it all out. It
had like a horror vibe to the way they were. Like, that was great, and that's where eventually and that was the part that depressed me, because there's moments where I'm like, okay, I'm really liking this scene, so maybe we're starting to roll. And then
it was good. My only, I think that scene to me just, especially she walks by this little booth. It's like hypno machine or something like that. Yeah. And at that point I was like, okay, so Elastigirl's gonna get taken over at some point in this movie.
Yeah, so, for sure, yeah.
I don't know, it kind of gives away like what's to come later, and then that doesn't have much of an effect, really. Like, you get a quick scene which is pretty cool of Elastigirl fighting Mr. Incredible, you know, a classic scene. That's kind of fun. But yeah, very quick. And then I guess I'm kind of skipping toward that ending scene, but because that's the second part with the villain, is that she herself doesn't have like the physical strength, so instead she gets
Syndrome.
Yeah, she gets a team of other goons to do her bidding for her. They introduced them earlier on in the movie. I think the Screecher guy was kind of funny because he's just so outlandish.
I like the electric guy because he was like
he was really so weird. Dude.
Yeah, that's why I liked him. The rest of them weren't really funny.
Yeah, their powers were, I don't know, kind of cool. I guess
I didn't like their look most part. Like Void, like
they looked like cosplayers at some lame convention.
Didn't like that. I wanted more like superhero looking people. Even when they introduced them later, like all the ambassadors had their superheroes. Even then, they all look like cosplayers. And maybe they're trying to be like that's the more modern superhero, but it's like not really. Like those looks really.
I think they were trying to go a little more off the wall because if you think back to the first movie, really all the other supers that they had, I mean, you don't get to see a whole lot of them. Mostly it's just clips and stuff, but they are kind of basic, but they're still like fun and memorable for some reason. I mean, part of it is nostalgia for sure.
Well, yeah, and they had a certain because that's inspired by Watchmen. They had like a classic '60s vintage look where it's like to me, I guess they are going for the cosplayer thing, but I thought they should have tried to go for the more like MCU Marvel thing almost. Then like maybe they don't want to do that because it's Disney, but do more like the way they always try and do tech or like people like a Punisher that's like mercenaries and they have like arm, like I'm not saying a skull like Punisher running around, but these just felt really lame, and it just felt like it's like Incredibles for people that are so creative. I thought the powers were good, like
the powers were a lot of fun.
Yeah, but then you have like the electric guy who's just like Mr. Fantastic knockoff and stuff like that. Like I don't know. Even then, if they could have done like if they were gonna be lame, then made them like I don't know, almost homages to other superheroes. But I just didn't really like any of them.
Yeah, well, I think Void is kind of the most interesting of them. Yeah, her powers are good, but she also just obviously has the most like screen time.
Yeah.
And they're trying to establish this story where she's like Elastigirl's #1 fan. So once again, kind of a retread of the first movie, just flipping it on.
Not a villain this time, so there you go. Not yet.
I mean, she kind of was actually. I mean, it wasn't
not by choice, though, right?
Yeah, it wasn't by choice. It wasn't like a character change that put her there, but. I mean, it was still there.
I was worried it was going to be a...
She was still your main muscle of this movie, really, if you think about it.
I was really worried that... I was like, oh man, Screenslayer is either her or it's going to be the fangirl. I'm like, I don't know which one I want at least, because they clearly try and make you think... Well, I don't think they clearly do, but for me, they seem like they're trying to lay the breadcrumbs that it was Winston like, a few times and trying to make it obvious, but it's like, he's not going to be the villain.
Well, you know, like the voice behind it, you know, a guy who's been known to play some pretty sleazy characters. So.
Yeah.
And so the Void was... Like, her scene with... her fight scene with Violet was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
very good.
Really creative. And then I guess she kind of has like that ending moment when her mask is gone and she helps Elastigirl get to the plane.
Yeah.
So, I guess she... I don't know. I don't really feel like she has an arc. That's the problem when you have...
Void does not have an arc.
That's the problem when you have like mind-controlled characters who forget everything that when they were under mind control. Because... Well, anything you do to those characters during that time in the movie is essentially nullified in terms of story and like a relationship between characters. So
why do you think Hawkeye's been trying to recover since Avengers? He's just starting to recover now, and they might kill him off in Avengers 4. You know, like mind control characters, and he started them never a good start. One thing I wanted to shout out before I forget it, I hated that plane scene with Elastigirl and
her getting to the plane.
No, that's fine. When she was in the plane, I just feel like Elastigirl could have handle that situation much quicker, but just like her putting the plane up and then putting it down and like that, and that the oxygen was okay, fine, eventually got that, but her just like moving it around, like we've seen Elastigirl fight so many goons, so many bad guys, and be in so many situations, like that train situation at the beginning of the movie is so much more dangerous and hard than just like the villain putting the plane up. It's like I feel like Elastigirl could have just like wrapped her arm around something. It would have like it felt like they had nothing for this villain to do once she got rid of her like hypnotic. So it's like, oh well, you know, she can just move the plane around. And I was like, okay, like just everything about this film just really disappointed me. And it's just I don't know. It just and it started. I thought it had potential. I liked the beginning was creepy. I liked the way of hypnotizing people. I liked that it was a kind of like a detective, almost Batman thing that Elastigirl had going on. And then,
I liked the first half an hour, but it didn't go anywhere, and then it ended.
No. Yeah.
My last thing
didn't go anywhere, and then it ended.
The train,
Incredibles 2.
The plane scene. So all of them are back on the boat together. Everyone has their mask off, and they're back to normal. And they're like, "Oh, we gotta stop. Evelyn is her name."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, Elastigirl, you gotta do this. You gotta finish your mission." And she's like, who's gonna stay and watch Jack? It's like, what are you talking about? There's only 5 people here who are all normal and can watch Jack. That kind of bugged me.
Yeah, and even then, like, I got what they were saying, like, you go finish your mission, but at the same time, it's like, they could come too. Like
they should.
Yeah,
it's pretty important.
You're a team, you know.
This villain has the potential to change the
the
intention of millions of people in an instant. So maybe you should get rid of her.
Well, yeah, and then even that,
just throw her in the back of a cop car.
Yeah, the only thing to me that was different about the ending, which I really liked, was like the hero on hero action stuff, like the Incredibles versus like all these like mind controls heroes. I think you brought in the car that I wish we could have got more of the kids Incredibles versus the adults Incredibles. But the fight scene is like very quick. Like it's just bing bang boom, the masks are off. But I like the aspect of them fighting the other heroes and seeing them fight other superpowered people.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But the ending is the exact same of like Incredibles, where okay, Bob gets kidnapped. You know, Elastigirl goes after him. Same thing.
And that
the kids aren't supposed to be
there. Because that scene as well, when the kids go to rescue their parents, is so much more fun in the first movie because they have that like campfire scene and it's kind of like emotional and kind of distraught. And then they have like that solo action scene where they're in the woods and then they run into them.
First time.
And it's really well choreographed and thought out.
But this was almost the same thing. Like okay, people be like, oh, it's different. Like the kids were at the campfire and they went to the base and Elastigirl didn't get kidnapped there, but it's very similar. Like Bob get kidnapped, Elastigirl, the significant other goes, and the kids come in to make the save. Like it's the same ending, just in kind of like different strokes, you know. Like and that's where for me, someone would throw, the Force Awakens. Yeah, that's someone's flaws. There's just another fucking Death Star, you know, and that's what sucks. That's what this was. Yeah. It's their other like family team up moment, you know. It's like like that really sucked. Because at first I was like, okay, I like the kids are gonna come save the parents, but when I started thinking like that. Oh no, that we've already did this, and that the moment I was referring to, and it clicked to me like, oh, we're getting lots of shades. Was Elastigirl the first time she's out when she has Winston's tech and everything like that? She's on her bike and she's listening to police scanners, and she literally says the line, "Oh, I remember I used to give Bob so much crap about police scanners, but here I am," and it's just like, but yeah, here we are. Like the first movie, Bob's out there listening to police scanners while you're at home. Same thing, like Bob's at home while you're listening to police scanners. It's just like. And that was just after, like, she met the rich guy, all new gear. It's just like, we're doing the same stuff. And a few of it was a little mixed and matched, like, moved here and there. Like, Edna didn't come in so early. But, like, I know you brought up, like, the Edna stuff for you was the exact same. And, like, yeah, it was a little different because of Jack stuff. But really, like, there's not much difference there. It's just kind of a way to get, like, oh, you remember this joke? You know, like,
yeah, you see Edna's nose zoomed up on the camera. They go inside. She has the control panel. It's different because they don't have the turret come down in that little joke. But then you just go in there and, look at the test chamber again. Mm-hmm. And
their stuff with Jack was fun. Like their little banter is good. But once again,
that's the thing. Whenever Jack's on screen, it's fun.
Yeah.
But that's all it is, and that's I guess that's what they're going for, was just to make a fun movie.
Oh, and those Jack toys that every kid's gonna want a Jack toy this Christmas.
And it's great, great for the people selling these things because there's so many different Jacks. So you got to get the monster one, you got to get Fire Jack, you got to get chubby,
multiple
fluffy cotton candy Jack. You got to get laser beam Jack.
So I love Jack, and I love how they used him. I thought at that moment when he turned super big, it was grating on me a little bit. I remember when I saw Jurassic World the first time that I didn't think much of it. And then after people pointed out, like, the main dinosaur has major plot armor because anytime the plot needs him to do something, like, oh, well, he can camouflage. Oh, well, he has raptor DNA. Oh, well, he can do this. Mm-hmm. And that's what I kind of thought Jack was, where it's just like, I'm like, okay, cool, how are they going to get out of this? And like, oh, Jack just turns into the big. Like, when they had them dead to rights in the vent, I'm like, okay, there should be a smart way Violet and Dash can use their powers, but it felt like any time they had some sort of problem, oh, Jack can do this. And yeah, it was cute that he could do all these different powers. Like you said, it's always fun, but at the same point, it's just like, is that what it's going to always be? And that's mostly what it always was.
We saw a lot of the same thing as well, like various scenes where Jack's in another dimension. Where is he? Get him a cookie. Like, you see that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
You see that
Mama
probably like...
cookie, he said... Yeah,
you see that like 4 times. So it just... And that actually leads right into another problem I had. I know we're very negative, and believe me, there's things I liked about this movie, but
the stuff. The problem is, it's all fun stuff, but to me, it's all like junk food stuff. Like, of course, Jack fighting a raccoon is gonna be fucking fun. Like, they write that stuff really good. Like, the rest of the stuff is, and there's like the train scene with
Good action
Incredible.
Scenes,
yeah, there's good stuff in there. It's just like this. What Incredibles to me was great was the story. This is. The rest of the stuff in Incredibles, that was, okay, you take the story out, that stuff's fun, and that stuff's cute, and that stuff's funny, but it's like without the good story, you know. That's why it's not a bad movie. And yeah, we're negative, but like the good stuff is just like, yeah, he fought a raccoon out really funny. And yeah, Frozone was freaking out about Jack. But it's like there's no consequences to that stuff. It's just like I said, these could have just been short films. The next 5 years could be like, hey, every Pixar movie is gonna have a fucking Incredible Jack short film, and we would still be like,
for Incredibles 2.
Yeah, we'd still be like, that Jack short film was great. It's so cute to see Jack. We'd be like, we want to see more Incredibles. So when we got to Incredibles 2, the whole half of the movie wasn't just like Jack's still cute. You know, it's like I knew he was cute. You know, but
yeah. My train of thought there was Dash. Mm-hmm. What happens to Dash in this movie? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
There's no story for him.
No.
All his scenes are
He's
good.
Just comedic relief.
Yeah, he has some funny scenes.
He's just the Flash. He's literally Justice League's Flash.
That's true.
He's
better. He's better though.
Yeah.
All his screen time is good stuff, but yeah, I can't even recall. Does he have any good action scenes? I can't remember. Like Violet has a good one. Obviously, Last Girl's a bunch. Mr. Incredible has a couple, but Dash, obviously Jack gets a ton. Dash, I don't think has any.
I think all their stuff at the beginning with Underminer is great. Like they all use their powers really well in that scene, but then after that, I'm not sure. Especially just because the first scene, maybe for me the most iconic scene in The Incredibles is when Dash is running and then he hits the water and he just looks to the ground like, and he laughs and he just starts, and it's just like such a good moment.
That reminds me. When they ride up with the car and the boat's gone away, they're like, oh shit, water, we can't traverse that. It's like, in the first movie, didn't you already like have Violet, I can't remember exactly this happened. Obviously Dash can run across the water, so he forgot he could do that, I guess.
Well, I guess he needs the speed though. I don't think he can start in the water, right?
So but can't Violet like make a ball and then he hops in it and then they go, like didn't they go over water in the first movie with that?
No, they didn't go in water.
Not in that final battle even? Like when they're back in New York. And they Is that not?
No.
Okay. But I'm sure they could.
I'm sure they could. It's just water. Yeah, they're Incredibles. If Jack can do anything, you know, Jack would probably turn into a fucking boat, you know, for all we know. And Elastigirl can do that too. So like they had.
She wasn't there.
No. True. She had to complete her mission.
But
yeah.
She's Winter Soldier.
Well, yeah, Homecoming.
Fuck,
I'd love to see Bucky in one of these movies. Just how fucked up.
I was kind of curious, like, is Disney gonna do this? They're gonna throw like, I was about to say Doctor Doom. They don't have the rights to that.
Not yet, Feige.
Are they gonna throw like Iron Man in this movie?
No, that's what Infinity was, and
that's what Wreck-It Ralph was for.
Yeah. No, like I guess because talking about the kids, because in the first one, Dash, this whole thing, he's struggling. Like he has these powers. And it's a very minor storyline, but still he has something.
Well, it's a big storyline for a kid.
Oh yeah, true it is. I just meant minor as far as the screen time. I guess like he's just like, I want to be fast and I have these powers. Like, okay, this kid wants to do something, and it's very much
being held back.
Yeah, it's very much like even just stuff as like a regular parent, you might be like, hey, like I don't want you to do this because of this reason. It might be dangerous, or maybe you're not ready for this. You're not grown up before this. Like it's a maturity thing, right?
And he gets frustrated because he's a kid and he has lots of energy.
Yeah, with this, he's just kind of there. And I didn't like Violet's. They did it to kind of give like Bob another problem, but I didn't. Especially, now looking back on it, I don't like that the movie started with Tony. And
it's kind of a weird character.
I thought we were going to get interviews from a bunch of characters there. And I was like, okay, this is a cute way to start. Like, oh, the civilians talking about the Incredibles being back. But then it was just with Tony, with Dickory or whatever. And then
Rick Dickory?
Rick
Dixon?
Yeah,
Dicker?
whatever.
Dickard,
yeah. And they mind wipe him. And then like that doesn't get touched upon for a little while.
Yeah.
And then
I liked the way they paced that beginning section. Or how they phrased it, you could say, where they had like that interview, and then that like doesn't actually come up until a little bit later in the movie.
Okay, see, I didn't like that because for me, I just like it was a weird start to do this whole mind wiping thing when we don't come back to it later, and I thought the mind wipe was just a lazy way to try and get Violet problem with boys. Like you could just have, I don't know, just have other problems with them, like they're kids, and I'm not saying he had stood her up, so obviously they had to think of a reason why he'd stand her up because he forgot, but I don't know, I didn't like the whole, I think they're trying to touch upon like teen angst, like that sort of deal, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because
they just didn't do it for me, I guess.
They did that in the first movie with her as well. A little bit different. In this one, she's a little bit like more angry, but she was still like had that kind of like moody or upset like teenager who just blows things out of proportion. She still had that in the first movie.
Yeah.
And it was well done because she like developed, and then obviously then in the movie she has like confidence. She has confidence, and like he even touches on that in this movie as well. So yeah, it just felt regressive again.
Yeah, and it's the same thing.
I liked. I think she had like one of the more interesting stories, but still, like, there's not really.
Did she though? What did they do with it at the end of the day? Like her and Tony just end up like same thing as the first one. Just end up where they're back. Oh, okay, they're going to a movie. Like, what was the point? Like, we didn't.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, nothing. There isn't really progression. So when you look at things that are interesting in this movie, it's mostly just like, I don't know, fun scenes or something.
Yeah. I almost would have preferred if Tony was just actually a dick, and then in the movie she just kind of decides like, hey, I don't need this boy, you know, like I can do whatever I want. I can, you know, this boy doesn't need to be everything for me. But the whole mind wipe, but I didn't think anything was funny. Yeah, the nose thing, that was funny when she like blows the water over her nose because it's so unexpected. Yeah. But the whole, and when she got ice cream as being invisible, that was good. Described as like the big like serving salad spoon. But other than that, like they went for a lot of jokes with her and Tony and just him being awkward, and I didn't laugh. I wasn't a fan of it, and it's same thing. I think
it was supposed to be like.
It's another story.
It's a classic. Before. I mean, obviously, the first Incredibles. There's very kind of basic symbolism with the characters, but it still works.
There's tropes, but to me, they do like different spins on it because there's superpowers. They have things like that.
Oh, that's what I'm saying is like the Tony character, because he wasn't really a character in the first movie.
No,
he's
more like an idea. Object, yeah.
In this movie, I think I don't know, if you compare him to her storyline, he's supposed to be like the clueless boy, and it's all right, I guess. Yeah. And that once again, like that goes until the very end of the movie, and then it ends with like the same sort of. I don't want. It's like a Taylor cliffhanger. It's not really a cliffhanger, but Taylor would call it a cliffhanger. Where he ends on the kind of the same spot that the first movie ended.
Well, yeah, they're going to see a movie.
Going to see a movie.
Yeah, and the Incredibles end in the same spot too, where they ended with the Underminer there, and they ended with like, oh, they're gonna go fight crime. That's where it's just like when that ended, it was like,
what if they literally had the Underminer at the end of the movie, because he's still out there.
They may as well.
And that's kind of disappointing to me. I wanted to see a conclusion to the Underminer here. You know, obviously they could be long kind of go for the Iron Underminer trilogy, and he's the big bad villain, but. Really,
I think he's gonna be the big bad villain. I don't think.
No, I wouldn't want that. I mean, I think he's great, but
I think he was great. The way
he was, and I think that's a perfect way to start the movie. And we talked about that, like when we saw the trailers. Obviously, they're going to continue right from where the first movie left off. Cool, that's your first. Like a lot of superhero movies feel the need to have an action scene in the first 15 minutes of the movie. That's fine with me, and he's the perfect character to do it with. But I don't know. I feel like maybe they should have like concluded the character as well.
Yeah, and maybe. Well, I guess they didn't do it for reasons that they needed them to not to go to prison, right, or to be I get a slap on the wrist, because when they're like, oh, like property damage, like blah, blah, do you catch Underminer? He's like, no, like. So if they caught him, they would have been like, well, we at least caught him, right? That's why they did it. I think that it still didn't make sense in that scene when they could be like, yeah, well, we saved like 50 people at least in that Underminer scene. Like, it felt like very, sense. Yeah, it just felt very lazy. Where the first one, like it was very out there of this guy trying to kill himself, and they sues Mr. Incredible. But they showed all this stuff and everything like this. Where this was just like, for me, it felt like other superhero movies that are lazy, where it's just like they didn't even bring up, but they still saved all these people. Okay, they didn't catch Underminer. There's probably damage, but there would have been that anyways. Think about the stuff they did do well, and I really liked that scene. I've always said that I want, like I said, a Batman, James Bond like type of movie, and I always want, and even any superhero movie, I love if you have a minor villain. Like there's a villain in Batman called Clock King. He's a guy who's into clocks and he robs banks. That would be a perfect 10 to 15 minute like this movie where it's like you start off, he's doing stuff and you catch him. Not like, and if you want to use me and then he gets away, maybe that's what the idea was Underminer as well. But the way it started, I was really happy because I'm like, I want almost every superhero movie to start like this. It's like, find the most minor villain, find someone you're never going to use. Like, I've always thought, we'll see what happens now, I always thought that's how Mysterio should be used in the Spider-Man movies. Like, first 10, 15 minutes, give them this big opening, like, salvo, and then they catch him, they take the fishbowl, like, oh, we got him, and then they move in the movie. Like, I think it's a great way to start off, action scene, see the character doing his stuff, and that's why I was really happy with this movie. I'm like, oh, we're starting good, okay, and then the second Frozone showed up with the business card. I was like, okay, this kind of is trending back to Syndrome, but let's see how it plays out. And then Bob was acting weird. And then to me, and that's the main thing. Other than, for me, the comedy stuff, it was either stuff that we had already seen, tropes that we've seen before that weren't a unique spin, or to me, they didn't do anything really fun with them, or the stuff that they did I just didn't like. Like the Violet stuff isn't the same as the first movie. It has a different spin on it, but I just wasn't entertained by it. I was like, oh, okay. So that was my thing with the movie, was other than the fun stuff, all the rest stuff was the same, or just stuff I didn't like. Like the villain, okay, she is kind of different villain, a little, syndrome, like as far as she's a person, but still different motivations, a different villain, but I just didn't like it, so, yeah.
A couple other, Frozone's fun, and I always love his animations are always awesome, and I like that he's at the beginning scene with the Underminer, and then he's also back in like the final.
And he was in this a lot of the final. He was doing a lot of stuff, and that's what I like, because he has cool powers, and I love his costume.
Yeah.
So good.
It's a classic. We didn't see his like bobsled thing at all, though. His little like.
No, he didn't bust it out this time.
His little skate. Though one thing that
they do the wife joke again.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was another classic rehash moment. And then like kind of on the boat scene, Mr. Incredible goes under to push the thing. How does he breathe underwater for so long? That's just like a little nitpick thing, but it just didn't make sense to me. He's like holding his breath too. It's not like he has some sort of device.
Well, he's holding his breath, and he's also doing something that takes a huge amount of energy. So even if he's not breathing in there, you're still like, you would be getting tired. Plus the water.
You would think,
yeah, I'll give you that one. You would think at that point he could just had some sort of a gizmo or something like that.
Gizmo.
And
other retreads include
other
retreads. I guess you mentioned the scanner kind of situation.
The scanner?
Yeah, how Elastigirl mentions that. Oh, Bob used to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, bringing back like I feel like the Gazer Beam thing was just as like a hey, remember this character from the first movie?
See, those are ones that didn't bug me because they weren't so overt, because he didn't do anything, didn't lines. He was just. Those ones didn't bug me because that's something you have to be a big fan of the first one to know that's Gazer Beam, and I love the flashbacks. That one didn't bug me because it's like, okay, it's just like an Easter egg where the lines are like the honey, like where's my suit? Like that's where it's like, okay, this is really just doing the same thing over and again, because technically we never actually got to see Gazer Beam in the first Incredibles. We saw a skeleton,
but
we
did see a skeleton.
Yeah, poor guy. True. Sick costume. He's just Cyclops, but sick costume.
There's a lot of sick characters in that no capes sequence in the first movie.
Oh yeah, and, love the '60s superheroes look. Yeah.
Jack, the raccoon scene is great.
Very good.
Worthy of mention. Yeah. Just a lot of fun gags and kind of shows the viewer like his possible powers. So that's good.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm trying
to think of good stuff.
I'm trying to think of like some positive things, but.
That's the tough stuff.
I feel like there's not much that really is going to last,
No.
Some scenes I'd like to rewatch, but I don't know. I don't feel like there's many like good character moments. No. And that's the thing that's disappointing for me.
Yeah, I'm trying right now to think of stuff. I'll say I'll give them positive. I'm happy that it didn't end up being Syndrome the villain. Even though when I rewatched Incredibles, I realized, oh shit, he just died. But at the same point, you see the plane explode, so you could have been, he's a bad guy. So I did really worry they were going to go that trope, but at this point, maybe I just wish they did that trope because I didn't really like what we ended up getting. So
true.
I don't know. I would have bitched about that too, but I would have had to see both scripts. And if now they come to, we would have also made Syndrome, and like, maybe we should just went with that trope instead of this one, because that really brought it down.
The other thing that pacing wise seemed a little off to me.
Yeah, pacing it's very off because the first Incredibles just flows so effortlessly. It's like 2 hours, whatever, but it goes by so quick. Where this, in the middle portion, I was not feeling it in the way of like, man, this felt long, but I felt like, okay, I'm in a movie theater right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, things aren't really progressing, but the one that felt strange to me is like, obviously the start of this movie, people are against supers, they don't want them around, they cause too much trouble, blah, 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 all the stuff that we set up in the first movie. But in this one, they go and they try and switch it back so that the public opinion is positive again.
Yeah, it's
reminded me of Detroit, actually, the video game recently we did a review for as well, where like I feel like the public opinion just sways very quickly and the pacing seemed off to me. But in this movie, it's like 1,000 times faster, where it seems like she does one thing and then everyone is for supers again. Yeah, let's bring back supers, forgetting all the reasons that they put them away in the first place. So...
Isn't this kind of Hancock, too?
Oh man, I haven't watched that in a while.
Oh, but isn't that Jason Bateman's character? He comes to Will Smith and he's a down out hero. He's like, we can clean up your image, we can make the public love you and everything like that. I'm gonna watch Hancock soon because I think that's what they just did with Elastigirl. Because it wasn't Hancock, and I forgot the movie now, so now this review will be immortalized and I won't remember unless I do it by the end. But there's another movie that was hitting me a lot of beats where I'm just like, okay, like her, because, and the same thing, it's not that new of like, we're gonna change your image. Like, I don't know if it was Detroit, but there was something recently I felt like I've watched or played where it's like, okay, we're doing this, like, do the image sort of thing. And again, it's just another storyline to me that's not that unique, you know, and that's I guess that's a big thing for me. Incredibles, it's very much like Watchmen, but still, as far as a film, like I said at the beginning, it's very unique, and especially for Pixar, it was very unique. Where this, to me, is, you know, we have a very similar tropes and stuff we've kind of all seen before, you know, and
it just makes me sad because I love the first movie so much.
Yeah, like, I don't know.
The fact that they didn't really try to evolve these characters at all is really sad to me. Because you establish such great characters, and that's what your origin movie is great for. I understand, you know, 14 years have passed, so maybe they felt like, okay, we got to remind people what these characters are and where they came from. But really, you shouldn't. No. You should try to make a really standout movie that, you know, pushes the characters and world that you have, because it is so unique, and it's an interesting one because in all, you know, obviously 14 years ago the superhero movie landscape was so different, and now we're in a world with, you know, a massive cinematic universe, and I don't know, DC trying to do some other weird shit, and then the X-Men movies, you know, there's been such a progression there. So I don't know, I feel like there's so much opportunity to do really whatever you want, you know, it's really broken, fully open, so you can go in like whatever pathway you want.
Deadpool beats them to the punch now, I guess. He kind of took that from them, I guess.
He's been known to beat people with punch, that's for sure. Yeah. I don't think I have much more to say, unfortunately. I didn't really have many positive things to say, and I think it's because there wasn't really a whole lot of depth to the things I did like about this movie. They were kind of just superficial, fun scenes, or like, and you know, we didn't mention this really, but the animation from start to finish is fantastic. I think every scene, like, and that's why those, you know, those lame goons are at least somewhat cool, because a lot of their powers look really cool. Yeah. And throughout the whole movie, Underminer, I was really happy with, like, that whole sequence was really fun watching.
Jackhammer.
Yeah. He was goofy too. Yeah. And then the soundtrack, you know, very similar. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these are just straight ripped from the first one. Maybe they re-recorded them, I'm not sure. It sounded great, and it was timed really well. So props on the visual front, and that's, you know, that's the classic Disney thing. They don't let a movie hit the theaters if it doesn't look and sound amazing. So
there's a standard, you know.
There is a big standard, and once again, that has been fulfilled.
And that's why for me, like, I do not want to start turning on Disney, because I love Disney. I love so much they produce, but this is nowhere near for me as far as, well, I don't know, maybe my rating will be similar, but I feel like it's kind of Solo-ish of like, okay, we did this.
You're talking about Han Solo.
Han Solo. Yeah.
Like, the way you said that, maybe a bit ambiguous.
Okay, yeah, like Solo, the prequel movie that just came out, very similar. Like, yeah, it looks good. It functions as a movie. We have these storylines that, you know, they do make sense, but it's just not that entertaining. Kind of
disappointing. A lot of safety, you know.
Yeah, stuff that's like, well, did we really need to do this? And that's why for me, it's like, I always worried when they said it was going to take place like moments after. It's like, there's no evolution.
Yeah, I thought they were just gonna do that for like a half an hour and then skip, but
that's the movie, and that's Incredibles 2.
We ended about 3 days after the first movie, probably.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, like there's a reason. Like, I don't know why I keep calling it back, but there's, because I just feel like, because when we talk about Retread, there's a reason Force Awakens takes place like 20 years later. Because if you took place like 5 minutes after, Luke Skywalker would be this, and whether you like what they do with Luke or not, he'd just be the exact same dude, you know? Like, nothing. He said
don't change in 5 seconds.
Yeah. He's had no new experiences. And that's, to me, then, for me, the challenge was, okay, and I guess this is my final thoughts, because I gave some of them earlier as far as, like, I went on a rant, so I used all the good stuff there, unfortunately. Kind of like Incredibles, I used all the good stuff at the first time. But, like, to me, that was the challenge. Like, okay, if you are... Same thing, another movie that Dylan Musk really dislikes, but Dark Knight Rises. They jump 8 years because... They want to show Bruce Wayne's a different broken man, right? Why'd they do that? Because you got to give him time to be broke. 8 minutes later, he's not going to be broke. So to me, a challenge of, okay, this movie's picking up right after. You have to involve these characters with not doing a time jump, with not saying, hey, this happened, now we're going to explain the characters and show you. Yeah. You have to get us to see them involved in front of us. And that people can do. There's many sequels that have done that. But for me, with The Incredibles, there was just something where I felt, I don't know, the family dynamic of what that first movie was, of the kids, the parents, and becoming a family. I felt like we'd kind of done that. And for me, okay, the challenge was, let's see these characters involved right in front of my eyes. And that didn't really happen.
And
I kind of saw them devolve, especially with Bob. You know, like I saw him go back. And that's not good.
Well, I honestly, I don't think he really went back. I think he just went to some place that we haven't seen him. But it didn't really make sense. And the thing is...
I do think he went backwards, though, because I felt like at the end of the first Incredibles, he's realizing that being a superhero, even that's great, his family's more important. Where at the beginning of this movie, it felt like, no.
But I mean, like, because at the start of the movie, first Incredibles, or I shouldn't say the start, but when we get to, like, the current time...
when they're married,
He's not like some volatile, bitter guy. He's kind of
bitter, though.
He's kind of distraught at, like, the mundane life that he leads. He's
depressed, yeah.
But he's certainly not, like, the kind of... unpredictable or scary guy that he kind of comes across at bits in this movie. And that's what's great about the first movie is they don't do a time jump, but they do like a progression sequence where, you know, Mr. Incredible's like working out and he's coming, and him and Elastigirl are, you know, on top, they're like kissing, they're all happy and stuff. And it's great because it shows that like over this time obviously he's becoming happier and he's getting to do what he loves. But there's also that dynamic where that whole time it's building the relationship between him and his wife. And then when she finds out that he was lying to her all this time, it like changes, you know, like her perception over all this time is now warped, and you kind of get to see how that unwinds. So that's really interesting. They did that well in the first movie, but there is like what is it? It probably is like 3 or 4 days that this movie takes place over.
Probably,
as opposed to the first movie, which was a few months, right? Something like that. So.
Yeah, but see, for me, in the first Incredibles, you have that journey, but I still feel that he is resentful of his family a little bit in the first one, and the fact that he'd rather be doing the superhero stuff, right? Like when him and Frozone go bowling, he's so excited, and then when he's doing these jobs, and then at the end of the movie, it feels like, he wants to be a superhero, but he realizes that his family's more important and he loves them. Like when he thinks his family's dead, and he just like, his wife is getting, like, Elastigirl's always like, she's yelling at him, and he just kisses her, and he's like, oh, I thought you were dead, and at one point at the end of the movie, he's like, you can't go fight because I can't lose you again. Like, to me, that's why I meant going backwards, where it felt like he seeped back into being a superhero is still more important, where it's like, that's where I thought the first movie was like, he was trying to find a balance, where him, like, resenting the kids, which is kind of fine because they were doing that for humor, but whatever, and then with him being jealous of Elastigirl, that's where I felt, okay, like, to me, that guy from the first one should have that little freak out in the bed, where he's like, oh, this is kind of lame, but I'm going to support you, and then he didn't, and then he just kept getting jealous, and at one moment he does support her at the end. He's like, you go complete your mission, but it's like, I don't know, it didn't feel earned in this one. We're in the first one, it did feel earned.
And we talked about earlier, that didn't really make sense plot wise either. No. So
yeah, no, for me, I was gonna give it a 7, but I can't give it a 7. I'm giving it a 6.5 because I can't give it a 6, but I'm in that middle tier, which it sounds super low. Because at first I was gonna give it a 7 because the good moments are good, but when I was just trying to think of the stuff I really liked, it's very far in between. Lots of times, like I said, a movie for me is always a 5 if it's like, you know, well made, well acted. Like for me as a film buff, I kind of go, okay, that's always like at least you get a 50%, you know, passing thing. And that's where it's like, okay, what else from that point? It's like, okay, a 1.5 for me is like the scenes I like with Jack. There's some good action scenes. I really liked the train sequence. I really liked the Underminer sequence. I really liked the Elastigirl in Screenslaver's like apartment and whatnot. That was fantastic. That was the highlight of the film for me because I really enjoyed that. That was something different. But it's I would still like it Incredibles 3 because I still think there's more to mine there, but I wouldn't want it. Yeah, I didn't mean that. But I wouldn't want it if it's the same thing of like, oh, we're back to them being kids. I still think, and yeah, maybe people say, oh, people are biased because they think their ideas are the best, but I still think there's a great movie of jumping forward when they're adults, because to me there's not a great movie of them still being kids. Like I'm talking about the kids growing up, you know, and I don't know, that'd be great. Or you could have the plot line of Violet having kids and being worried, you know, or easily a plot line of like having one of these kids have kids and that kid not be a superhero and being embarrassed because everybody else is a superhero and they're not. Like I feel like there's so many things you could do to Chinatown. There's all these trees where like I felt like, you know, when they went with this approach, there was just one branch. And it's like, maybe that branch was going to have some great peaches on it, but it didn't. It just kind of had some, you know, peaches that have been sitting there for a while. Some of the pigeons have gone at them. It's like, these have been picked over.
Some
they
worms.
used to be better. So, yeah, 6.5 for me, a pass. It's just, yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing now on the whole because I had those expectations, but I still went in being like, I hope I'm wrong. And I wasn't. And, yeah, it's it's very unfortunate. Unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in the same boat when it comes down to it.
Like, I don't know when I'll watch this again, you know?
I don't really need to see it again, unfortunately. I was thinking about it as I was in the theater. I'm like, oh, I should ask my mom if she wanted to go see this movie. This would be a good movie that, like, my mom took this to me as a kid. I should take her now.
Full circle.
But, like, I don't want to see this again, so sorry, Mom. I'm just kidding. But, yeah, no, it's just trying so hard to get you to remember the first one and redo things from the first movie, but it fails in a few respects. The villain doesn't have that epic or mysterious nature that Syndrome was loaded with.
Not even as charismatic, too. Syndrome's so fun to watch. And that's obviously just Jason Lee does a great job, but there's just such a build to this character. This character's just good.
Syndrome!
Yeah, this character's there. Even the way she's revealed is just there. I guess I forgot I should show, I liked her putting Elastigirl in, like, the frozen container. Okay, yeah, classic villain
cool.
thing. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, the five characters, Incredibles. Wow, nothing happens with them, really. We start where the last movie ended, which was, Great Place, and we end where the last movie ended. So, did I watch the movie? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's very disappointing for me. It's a big letdown. As much as I think I did have my expectations set lower, but still, like, this is 14 years in the making, and I really am struggling to find a whole lot of things that I loved about it. I don't think there is anything that I loved about this movie. There's certainly some scenes I liked, and there's, some alright moments, and, execution was, I think this is exactly what the movie they wanted to make, so...
Oh, yeah.
I think that...
They've been waiting 14 years.
That's good. But, yeah, I mean, 14 years have passed, and this is the best story. Like, I know Brad Bird, he's doing other stuff, writing, directing other movies, but you got to think, in his free time, Incredibles float around in his head, like, oh, what should I do with those characters if I ever get a chance to make a second movie? And, the result he landed on was to do it again. Yeah. So, I don't know. This is a movie that I think it could have been really easy. Just give me a few nuggets, and I really could have just been full bias mode. Like, I loved every minute of it. It's my favorite movie of the year, but I mean, I have to be realistic about it, and realistically, it leaves me in a puddle of sadness and shadows of a movie that I grew up with such a special place in my heart, and I still have that movie, and that makes me happy. So.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see the rest of the years, because hopefully it's not this disappointing, but I don't even think this movie will be anywhere like near my top 10. If it is, then we're in for a really bad year. But I guess right now
we might, because best soundtrack, best scene, these things might make it into the Golden Geeks, but I don't know if we'll get,
I doubt it. I think best
main
score,
character
but that's
or villain,
about it.
something like that, and I don't know.
I think Infinity War could be best scene in just all 5,
Well, I mean, at least nominations. I'm talking nominations alone.
Oh, that's what I mean. I don't even think it'll get the
Really? You don't think the raccoon scene could at least get a nomination?
No, not this early on. I think it's a fun scene, but, like, there's, like, Infinity War, Black Panther, I've yet to see it, but I'm sure there's something in Quiet Place that would pop up, like...
Fair enough.
I feel like the raccoon scene, again, is, like, it's a fun, nice little skit or sketch, but it's just... I don't know. It's just it's you're not gonna remember it. You'll remember when you think, oh, what happened to Incredibles 2? Oh, right, Jack fought a raccoon. But I feel like in a week you'll forget I think you'll forget a lot about this movie.
Yeah, I think I will.
Which is unfortunate for.
Good thing we're recording tonight, because if we recorded tomorrow, who knows? Maybe I would have forgotten most of it.
Which that's most unfortunate thing. Incredibles 2 happened, and I feel like it's very forgettable.
It's come and gone.
Yep.
Yeah, I watched it an hour ago, so.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to get out of here quickly because it's later. We're doing a review on Thursday. Next week, I believe we should be doing the Jurassic World review on Friday, so you can join us live for that. Watch it on Thursday night or watch it early Friday and come join us and come join that one, because Taylor Field is maybe the biggest Jurassic Park fan. He has tattoos of them all over his body.
All over his body.
But, God. Talking about OG jokes, but yeah, I can't promise that's gonna be any better. And then the same thing also.
You'll at least have someone who's positive on the cast. Because
yep.
I find it hard to believe Taylor won't love the movie. So
yeah, and then I don't know. At some point, a few days after, or that week after, we will be dropping a Luke Cage review. So
does it come out next weekend?
Comes out the Friday next week. So yeah, we'll be doing a little later because we got some stuff to record during the weekend. Hopefully, if not, then. You'll get a Luke Cage at some point within that week, and
we're gonna watch it.
Hopefully that's good.
Hopefully, I really hope so. I mean, Marvel, Netflix had some good, had some bad lately, so it's been a mixed bag.
Could be anything.
It could be. Hopefully, it's not quite the level Jessica Jones 2 was. Hopefully, it's more near Punisher because Punisher was amazing.
Yeah. So thank you very much for tuning in. Look at the links below. Subscribe on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud. Stitcher Radio. If you like what we do, head over to Patreon. There's some good stuff dropping there. You get the Blade retrospective early, which for non-Patreon viewers, that'll be dropping next week at some point in honor of Luke Cage. You get some gauntlet matches. We played a 3-hour Monopoly match or superhero draft. So lots of good stuff popping up on Patreon right now. So that $1 and $5, well worth the content. We will be back next week for Jurassic World, and I promise you it will not be boring.
Thank you for tuning in. See you later.